Okay, when you think about, exciting investment opportunities, fast-growing places, maybe tech hubs come to mind, established emerging markets. But what if the real rising star, the one we really need to talk about, is Uzbekistan? It's undergoing this, well, quiet but pretty profound transformation. Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a really close look at the evolving investment landscape in Uzbekistan, specifically for foreign investors. We've got a whole stack of comprehensive studies, reports, basically everything needed to understand why this nation is starting to draw some serious global attention.
Exactly. And our mission today really is to cut through all the noise. We want to highlight the most important insights, the opportunities, and crucially, the practical things you need to consider. Doesn't matter if you're a seasoned investor looking for new frontiers, or maybe you're just curious about this really dynamic region.
Hmm.
And yeah, we're drawing on some solid analysis, think detailed reports from the Asian Development Bank, macroeconomic forecasts from the Eurasian Development Bank, trying to give you a truly informed view.
Right. So let's start with that big picture. Uzbekistan is on this incredible path, right? Driven by its Uzbekistan 2030 strategy. And this isn't just small steps. They're aiming for a huge leap getting to upper middle income status. That means a big jump in national wealth, better living standards. We're seeing really robust GDP growth, consistently hitting well over 6% recently, mostly thanks to strong domestic demand. And the numbers for foreign direct investment, they're kind of staggering, expected to jump from about $11.9 billion in 2024 to over $42 billion in 2025. That's a massive vote of confidence from the world.
Absolutely. And a key piece of this, something you can't overlook, is Uzbekistan's strategic location. Geographically speaking, it's not just another country in Central Asia, it's a vital transit hub. It's uniquely positioned to link these huge economic blocs. We're talking China, the EU, the Middle East, even the Russian Federation. This connectivity isn't just lines on a map. It gives real advantages for trade, logistics, setting up regional supply chains. And this growth, this potential, it isn't just happening by chance. Since about 2017, the country has pushed through these sweeping economic reforms. They've systematically built a much more enabling environment for private investment. And these are tangible changes, not just talk. Things like getting rid of or slashing various taxes, import duties. Plus, a really pivotal shift away from a historically state-controlled economy towards market principles. For instance, some export subsidies, certain fiscal incentives, government tax breaks. Basically, they're being phased out starting New Year's Day 2025. It's a deliberate move, aligning the country more closely with WTO rules, trying to create a more level playing field.
That sounds like a really fundamental shift, very intentional. So with all this change happening, where's the government really focusing its efforts? What are the key sectors driving this transformation?
Well, the government's focus seems to be concentrated in two broad areas, generally speaking. First, really pushing for market orientation, developing the private sector. It's about decentralizing, empowering businesses. Second, there's a huge emphasis on climate change,
Hmm.
specifically transitioning towards a green economy. And underpinning all of this is the absolute necessity of human capital development, investing in education, skills training, making sure the workforce can actually handle these big changes. They've consistently put a significant chunk of their GDP into education, which is, well, a powerful investment for the long haul.
Okay, so we got this picture of ambitious growth, strategic location. But, for any investor, the gut question is, how secure is my investment? Let's talk about building trust. What specific legal changes, regulatory shifts are actually backing this up, making it feel like a safer bet?
Right, that's crucial. And the foundation for that trust, it's built on a legal framework that's become much clearer, much more understandable for outsiders. The law on investment and investment activity from 2019, plus the laws that followed, they've really made the rules of the game more transparent. And on the tax side, the reforms have been pretty significant. VAT, the value-added tax, dropped from 15% down to 12% back in January 2023. The turnover tax got simplified to just a unified 4%. And importantly, for that green transition we mentioned, income from green energy certificates, exempt from corporate income tax since February 2024. These aren't just minor adjustments, they signal a serious commitment to attracting and keeping foreign capital. And like we said, phasing out certain export subsidies and incentives from January 1st, 2025, that's another key signal. It aligns Uzbekistan more closely with World Trade Organization rules, showing they're serious about global standards, about creating a more predictable trade environment.
Makes sense. So beyond the general rules and taxes, are there specific zones or special mechanisms designed purely to attract and help foreign investment get started?
Oh, absolutely. You can think of them as dedicated magnets for investment. As of, say, April 2025, Uzbekistan had set up 28 special economic zones, SEZs, plus 389 small industrial zones, 23 tech parks, and 355 clusters. These zones aren't just concepts, they're thriving. They host nearly 7,000 businesses already, and they offer various targeted tax breaks for investors who are in it for the long term. And to make things even smoother, cut through the red tape, the Investment Promotion Agency acts as a one-stop shop for foreign investors. They simplify registration, provide support right from your first question all the way through to getting operational.
Okay, framework established. Now, here's where it gets really interesting for potential investors listening. Where exactly are the most promising opportunities right now? Where's the real action?
Right. If we connect this back to the strategy. In manufacturing and industry, textiles is a huge one. It's undergoing massive modernization. The goal is hitting $6.5 billion in export earnings by 2026. That's ambitious. And their cotton textile clusters have been really successful, boosting processing efficiency, helping farmers get the inputs they need. The chemicals industry is another standout. It leverages Uzbekistan's natural resources, phosphates, natural gas, limestone, and they've got a highly educated workforce to support it.
Okay, textiles, chemicals. What about the bigger infrastructure picture? Energy, transport.
That's a major focus area. Under infrastructure and energy, Uzbekistan is making a very deliberate, strong shift to sustainable energy. They've got this ambitious target, lift the share of renewables in their generation mix from 16% at the start of 2025 up to 26% by the end of 2025. That's fast. The potential for large-scale solar and wind is significant, and it's already pulling in substantial foreign investment for major projects. But it's not just about new stuff. They're also doing critical upgrades to existing power plants and transmission lines. The estimate is something like $3.7 billion a year needed for these upgrades between 2020 and 2030.
Wow, that's a lot of investment needed there.
It is. And in transportation, they're really focused on developing those key corridors connecting east and west, making Uzbekistan that central hub. Digital infrastructure is also booming. The fiber optic network grew significantly, reaching almost 82,000 kilometers by 2021. Mobile base stations shot up too. But here's an interesting point. There's still a limited number of hyperscale data centers, those huge server farms. Given the data explosion, that looks like a substantial opportunity for foreign investors.
Fascinating. And what about services and technology? We hear a lot about digital transformation globally.
Definitely relevant here too. Under services and technology, look at digital banking users shot past 20 million by 2022. It shows a population that's pretty tech savvy. The fintech startup scene is still, nascent, but it's developing. The government's supporting it with things like the Fintech Association, setting up regulatory sandboxes to encourage innovation. And the IT park offers some really attractive incentives, like 0% corporate income tax and just 7.5% personal income tax for employees there, extended through 2028. That's very competitive.
Very attractive indeed.
Yeah. Then there's tourism, another strategic growth area. They want to go from 10 million visitors in 2024 to 15 million by 2030. And one more specific example, the Tashkent Pharma Park. It's a unique setup for pharmaceutical investment, offering zero customs duties, tax exemptions on land, property, water, really designed to pull in pharma manufacturing.
Okay, lots of opportunities laid out there. But, knowing the sectors is one thing. Knowing how to actually get involved is another. What are the practical things investors need to think about? Market entry, operational stuff, and what kind of actual support can they expect on the ground?
Good question. For market entry, the government seems quite open, especially to strategic foreign investors getting involved in privatization. They're selling off stakes in state-owned companies. And as we mentioned, that investment promotion agency is key. They're really designed to be your main point of contact, smoothing out the registration process, offering support all along the way. Your guide, essentially.
And once you're in,
Right.
What's the operating environment like? Labor, banking?
Well, operationally, Uzbekistan has a growing and quite young labor force. The government knows skills are key, so they're pouring money into education, averaging nearly 6% of GDP between 2013 and 2022. They're trying to bridge any skills gaps by getting employers and schools to work together more closely. The banking sector is admittedly still dominated by state-owned banks, but reforms are happening there too. The goal is to massively increase lending to the private sector from 28% of borrowers in 2020 up to 70% by 2025. And there's a push to develop venture capital, especially for small and medium-sized businesses, which is crucial for innovation.
Right, and every investment carries risk. What should investors be keeping an eye on in terms of potential risks? And more importantly, what is the government actually doing to make things more stable and predictable?
Definitely. Risk management is critical. The government is actively working to reduce fiscal risks, aiming to get the budget deficit down to 3.0% by 2025. They've also set a strict ceiling on public external debt, not letting it go above 60% of GDP. That shows fiscal discipline. Plus, there's a big focus on improving how state-owned enterprises are run, their corporate governance. That builds investor confidence. And setting up bodies like the Anti-Monopoly Committee and the State Assets Management Agency is really important. It promotes fair competition, speeds up privatization, and ultimately makes the regulatory scene more predictable for foreign investors. Less uncertainty is always good.
It really helps to hear about companies already succeeding there.
Yeah.
Can you share maybe one or two specific success stories that kind of bring this whole transformation to life, something that really shows these shifts in action?
Sure. One really significant example, especially for the banking changes we discussed, is OTP Group, the Hungarian bank. Their acquisition of Ipoteka Bank in 2023 wasn't just a deal. It really signaled a major opening up of the banking sector to private foreign players, a big shift.
Right, that sends a strong message.
Definitely. And in the renewable energy space, ACWA Power is a great example. They're a leading investor actively developing big projects like the Karakalpakstan wind farm. This directly showcases Uzbekistan's commitment to that green transition and its ability to attract serious international capital for these large-scale sustainable projects.
Okay, banking and energy.
Mm-hmm.
Any others that stand out? Maybe closer to the consumer side.
Yeah. Think about Korzinka. It's Uzbekistan's biggest supermarket chain. They successfully raised $110 million in equity funding recently. And the investors, major international players like the Abu Dhabi Investment Authority. This shows confidence not just in Uzbekistan generally, but specifically in the growing consumer market and local businesses. It ties back to that strong domestic demand we mentioned earlier.
Those are really compelling examples covering different sectors too. So looking ahead, what does all this mean for you, the potential investor, and how is Uzbekistan positioning itself now on the bigger global stage?
Well, connecting it all, the government's priorities for the next few years, 2024 to 2027, really double down on continuing these reforms. It's all about inclusive growth, more market orientation, pushing the green transformation forward, all under that big Uzbekistan 2030 strategy. And the emerging opportunities. A lot lie in regional integration. Uzbekistan's actively engaging with the Eurasian Economic Union, EAEU. They've resumed WTO accession talks. Plus, they benefit from the EU's GSP Plus scheme. That means over 6,000 Uzbek products can enter the EU tariff-free. There's a similar deal with the UK. These things really boost trade potential, and those big transport projects like the Trans-Afghan Railway or the rail link through Kyrgyzstan to China, they just further cement its role as a key logistics hub.
And you mentioned the green transition. ESG is becoming huge for investors globally. How does that factor in?
It's becoming increasingly central. Uzbekistan seems deeply committed to this green transition. They're attracting significant climate finance from multilateral development banks. And they're actively looking into developing a circular economy. For investors focused on sustainability, on ESG, environmental, social governance factors, these commitments are really important. They align with modern investment thinking and actually open up unique opportunities for, let's say, socially conscious capital.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. If we had to summarize the key advantages for investors looking seriously at Uzbekistan, what would they be?
I'd say three main things jump out. First, a rapidly reforming economy with real momentum. Second, that incredibly strategic geographic location right at the crossroads of major markets. And third, strong, proactive government support, including those tailored incentives we discussed.
And the prime sectors, the ones offering maybe the most immediate opportunities right now.
Based on everything we're seeing, renewable energy is definitely up there. Manufacturing, especially textiles and chemicals, digital services, given the tech uptake, and critical infrastructure, covering energy, transport, and digital. Those seem to be the hotspots.
It's certainly a compelling picture. We really encourage you, our listeners, to explore this further. Uzbekistan is rapidly becoming a very significant player to watch on the global investment map.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. As Uzbekistan fundamentally transforms its economic model, think about this. How might its unique mix, that strategic location, those ambitious green goals, and a young, adaptable workforce, how might that reshape investment thinking, not just for Central Asia, but perhaps even more broadly, globally?
A really fascinating question to ponder. Thank you for that insight. And thank you for joining us. We'll catch you next time for another deep dive right here on The Deep Dive.